We're practicing today with multiplying and dividing fractions and mixed numbers. So if you don't have this in front of you, if you don't have access to this sheet that I made, you can get some notebook paper and make it yourself. You can fourth the paper, and then after you fourth it, you can write the problems. Just pause it. Pause the video as we go along so to give you time to get the problem written down. Okay, let's go ahead and start with number 1. We got 2/3 times 1/3. What we're going to do here is we're just multiplying. That's very easy. You can just do top times top, bottom times bottom. So I can go across. 2 times 1 is 2. 3 times 3 is 9. And I need to make sure it's in simplest form. 2 is prime. 9, I'll say 3 times 3. Prime, prime. I draw my line, put the numbers circled for 2 on top, the numbers circled for 9 on bottom. Nothing matches, so that tells me that this is my final answer. That is in simplest form. Okay, moving on to number 2. And at any time, I encourage you to pause the video and work the problem and then play it and watch me work it and see if you worked it correctly. Okay, we've got 4/7 divided by 5. Now we're dividing this time. Remember, in division, we do what we call keep it, switch it, flip it. So we're going to keep it, switch it from division to multiplication, and then flip it. Right now, this is a 5 with an imaginary 1 under it. So instead of 5 over 1, I'm going to make it 1/5. And then come across and now just multiply across. 4 times 1 is 4. 7 times 5 is 35. And again, I want to make sure that this is in simplest form. 4, and if I factor that out, it's 2 times 2, prime, prime. By the way, remember our first few prime numbers to remember when we're factoring: 2, 3, 5, and 7. Also, you could go and say 11, 13, then 17. I don't think you'll need to go that high, but this will get you by with factor trees with the low numbers that we're using. And if it's on that list, you circle it. Okay, then 35, 5 and 7, prime, prime. And of course, we saw those on the list. That's why I circled it. I'll draw my line. I'll put 2 times 2 on top, 5 times 7 on bottom. I don't have a match, so my final answer is 4/35. 4/35. And just to look back just a minute, when I'm multiplying, I'm saying what is 2/3 of 1/3? I want a piece of a piece. And remember, my answer will be lower than either one of these fractions because I'm getting a piece of a piece. Now, with dividing this, I've got 4/7 divided by 5. If with division, here's a little trick to remember. If you start with a fraction, your answer will be a fraction. If you start with a whole number, your answer will be a whole number. Of course, that's after you convert it because you have to keep it, switch it, flip it. So it says 4/7 divided by 5. I wanted to take 4/7 and divide it into 5 equal parts. And my answer is 4/35. Okay, number 3. This is a little different than what you're used to seeing. I've got a mixed number right here. Before I can multiply this, I have got to turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So remember to do that. Multiply these, add the top. Multiply these, add the top. Multiply these, add the top, and keep the same denominator. So multiply these, 28 plus 3, 29, 30, 31. Multiply these, add the top, that's what I did, and keep the same denominator. So that's 31 sevenths times, and then just keep your 2 sevenths. Okay, come across. 7 times 7 is 49. 31 times 2, that would be 62. What's wrong with that? It's improper. We've got to divide and rock around the clock to fix it. We've got to fix the improperness before we put it in simplest form. So I'm going to divide 49 into 62, and it will only go one time. 1 times 49 is 49. Subtract. Gives me 13. I'm going to stop and rock around the clock. 1 and 13 49ths. And if you come and do factor trees, by the way, remember when you rock around the clock, you start at the top, like at the very top of the clock. There's my whole number. It always goes here. 13 49ths, this makes up the other fraction. This is my whole number, and this makes up the fraction. So 13 is prime. It made the prime list, so we circle it. 49, 7 times 7, and that made those made the prime list. So when I stack them, nothing matches. So there's my final answer, 1 and 13 49ths. Okay, I'm multiplying again. 4/9 times 1/3. I can just go top times top, bottom times bottom. 4 times 1 is 4. 9 times 3 is 27. It's not improper, so I just need to make sure it's in simplest form. 2 times 2, prime, prime. 27 is 3 times 9. 3 is prime. 9, 3, and 3, prime, prime. 2 times 2 on top. 3 times 3 times 3 on bottom. Nothing matches. So once again, this one is in simplest form. And I haven't done any cross-canceling on the multiplying because really I haven't seen the need for it. My numbers haven't really been too high. Plus, I really couldn't do any cross-canceling on here. There's nothing that would go into 3 and 4 besides 1, and there's nothing that would go into 1 and 9 besides 1. So, all right. Next problem. Number 5, we're at division again. Remember, in division, keep it, switch it, flip it. Now notice, I'm starting with a whole number. So guess what my answer will be? My answer will be a whole number. So I'm going to keep it, switch it, and flip it. Instead of 2/3, I'm going to do 3/2 equals. And I guess this 2, I want to slap a 1 under it, so I'm going to make it a smaller 2, 2/1, like this. How about that? Now, 2 times 3 is 6. 1 times 2 is 2. And 6 divided by 2 is 3. And there's my final answer. Remember I said in division, if you start with a whole number, your answer will be a whole number. If you start with a fraction, your answer will be a fraction. And since we started with a whole number, we got a whole number as our answer. Remember, in division, you keep it, switch it, flip it. Okay, number 6, 10 times 8/9. That means I want 8/9 to happen 10 times. So I'm going to say 10 times 8/9. And the reason I wrote my 10 small, because I know I'm going to do top times top, bottom times bottom. I want to slap a 1 under it so that I have a a fraction here. So 10 times 8 is 80. 1 times 9 is 9. So this reads 80 divided by 9. That's improper. So I've got to set this up. 9 will go into 80. Let's see. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 9 is 81. So that's too much. So I want 9 times 8 is 72. Subtract. That's 8. So here's my answer. Here's my whole number. 8 and 8/9. And I know this is in simplest form because these are neighbors. 8 and 8/9. All right, number 7. Okay, we're multiplying mixed numbers. Remember, we've got to turn these mixed numbers into fractions. So I'm going to multiply these, add the top, and keep the same denominator. So 5 times 3, that's 15. Add the top, that's 16. And keep the same denominator. See, I turned this mixed number into an improper fraction. Times, multiply these, add the top, and keep the same denominator. So that's multiply these 10 plus 1 is 11 fifths. And then I'm going to come across and I'm out of room right there. So I'll do it here. I'll do the bottom. 3 times 5 is 15. 16 times 11. I'll come right here and do that. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. Put my placeholder. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. That's 6, 7, 176. And that's improper, so I need to divide and rock around the clock to fix that. Now, this will be pretty easy division. 15 won't go into 1, but it will go into 17 one time. 1 times 15 is 15. Subtract 2, bring down a 6. 15 into 26 will only go one time because 15 times 2 is 30. So 1 times 15 is 15. Subtract 11. Stop and rock around the clock. 11 and 11/15. And I know that is in simplest form. I'm going to go ahead and circle it for time's sake. If you would like to go ahead and do factor trees, you can. But I'm trying to make my video not quite so long today. Okay, number 8. We're multiplying. 3/4 times 7/8. That means I want a piece of 7/8. Top times top, bottom times bottom. 3 times 7 is 21. 4 times 8 is 32. That's a proper fraction, so I just need to make sure it is in simplest form. 21 is 3 and 7, prime, prime. 32, 4 and 8. 4 is 2 times 2, prime, prime. 8 is 2 times 4, 2's prime, then do 4. 2 times 2, prime, prime. I'll draw my line. 3 times 7 on top. Doesn't look like I'm going to have any matches. And 5 2's. Nothing matches. So 21 over 32 is my final answer. Okay? Next problem. Number 9, we're dividing. Remember, in division, we're going to keep it, switch it, flip it. So this will keep it, switch it from division to multiplying, and this will be flip it. Right now it's understood to be 9 over 1. So we're going to make it 1/9. Now let's look at the original problem. It's starting with a fraction. So what will my answer be? My answer will be a fraction. 1 times 1 is 1. 3 times 9 is 27, and that's my final answer. It is in simplest form because it has a 1 as a numerator, 1 on top. Number 10, multiplying. 8/12 times 3/4. Oh, I see some cross-canceling that I can do immediately. Let's look at the 4 and the 8. I can use 4 to go into both of those. I could also use 2, but I want to use the largest number possible. So I'm going to divide 4 into 4 and 4 into 8. 4 will go into 4 one time. 4 will go into 8 two times. Now I've got 3 and 12. I can use 3 and divide 3 into both of these. 3 will go into 3 one time. 3 will go into 12 4 times. Now I can multiply what I have. Remember, when you're doing cross-canceling, some people do one number and not the other. You've got to do them both. Both of them that are diagonally across from each other. 2 times 1 is 2. 4 times 1 is 4. So 2/4, I hope you recognize that as a half. And we know that is in simplest form. Okay, moving on along. And by the way, if you didn't cross cancel, you could still come across and say 8 times 3 was 24. 12 times 4 is 48, and you could factor 12 over 48, and you would still wind up with having a half. Okay, number 11. 5/6 divided by 7. We're going to keep it, switch it, flip it. Keep it, switch it to multiplication, flip it. If it's 7 as a whole number, that means this is understood to be 7 over 1. So I'm going to make this 1/7. Now look at the original fraction. If I start with a fraction, my answer will be a fraction. 5 times 1 is 5. 6 times 7 is 42. When I factor that out, 5 is on the prime list. 42. 6 times 7. 7's on the prime list. 6 is 2 times 3. Prime, prime. Draw my line, put a 5 on top. 2, 3, 7 on bottom. Remember to always make sure you're in order least to greatest when you're listing them. Nothing matches, so 5 over 42 is final. Okay, number 12. I've got a mixed number times a mixed number. That means I need to turn these mixed numbers into improper fractions. So I'm going to multiply these, add the top, and keep the same denominator. So that's 16 plus 4, that's 20 over 8 times, do the same here, multiply these, add the top, 24, that's 27 eighths. Do you see any cross canceling that I could do? Because if I multiply across, this is pretty big numbers here, 20 times 27. 20 and 8. 8 won't go into 20, but 2 would go into 8 and 20. Can you think of something else that would go into 8 and 20? What about 4? 4 goes into 8 and 4 goes into 20. Remember, if I do this number, I must also do this number. If I don't, it won't work out right. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 20 divided by 4 is 5. Now on 8 and 27, I really can't think of anything that will go into both of those. This is an even, this is an odd. That's a tough one. So I'm just going to come across. I know 8 times 2 is 16, and now I've got to do 5 times 27. Let me come over here and work it on the side. It's 135. That's improper, so I just need to divide and rock around the clock. Top number goes in. Now you may want to pause this and do your own division and then check it after you play and watch me do it. Try to do as much on your own as you can without relying on me so much. 16 won't go into 1. 16 won't go into 13, but 16 will go into 135. Let me do my 16 facts. Let me try 16 times 5. That's 85. So let me try 16 times. I'll skip 6. Let me go to 7. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 112. So let me try 16 times 8. So 128. So it's probably as close as I can get because 16 times 9 is probably going to go over. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 144. Yes, it went over. So I'll do 8. And 8 times 16 was 128. Now I've got to subtract. That's 7. And there's my answer. 8 and 7/16. And I know that is in simplest form because 7 is prime. And when I factor out 16, it's going to be a bunch of 2s, so they won't match up. Okay, let's go on to number 13. Almost done. Almost done. We've got 3/10 times 2 and 2/4. On 3/10, I've got, let's see, I'm going to keep my 3/10 because it's a proper fraction. But since this is a mixed number, I need to multiply these, add the top, and keep the same denominator. So I'll multiply these, add the top. So that's 10, because 8 plus 2 is 10, and keep the same denominator. So this fraction was okay because it was already a fraction, but I had to fix this because it was a mixed number. Now, can I do any cross canceling? Oh, I see. The 3 and the 4 I can't. I don't know of anything that'll go into 3 and 4 besides 1. But 10 and 10, I could divide both of these by 10. 10 will go into 10 one time. 10 will go into this 10 one time. When I come across, watch how this will work. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 4 is 4. 3/4 is in simplest form because they are neighbors. Okay? Number 14, division. Remember, we're going to keep it, switch it, flip it. Okay. And by the way, since I'm starting with a whole number, my answer will be a whole number. So I'm going to keep it, switch it, flip it. Instead of 8/9, it's going to be 9/8. And I'm going to slap a 1 right here. It still equals 10. 10 divided by 1 is still 10. And I can do some cross canceling right here with 10 and 8. I could divide them both by 2, but I'll just keep going. 10 times 9 is 90. 1 times 8 is 8. That is improper, so I need to divide. 90 divided by 8. 8 will go into 9 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract 1. Bring down a 0. So now I'm dividing 8 into 10. 1 time. 1 times 8 is 8. Subtract 2. Stop and rock. 11 and 2/8. And I've got to make sure that is in simplest form. And it is not. So I'm going to say 2. I'm going to factor that out. 8. That's 2 and 4. 2's prime. 4. 2 and 2. Prime, prime. Let me draw a line. I've got some matches here. 2 on top. 2, 2, 2 on bottom. Look what matches. The 2's match. And there's an invisible 1 on top. And then I multiply these. 2 times 2 is 4. So that'd be 1/4. So this is going to change to 1/4. But don't forget that 11. 11 and 1/4. 11 and 1/4. And that's well, we know that's in simplest form because we did factor trees. Okay, almost done. We've got improper fractions. No, excuse me, they're not improper, they're mixed numbers. And I've got to I'll turn them into an improper fraction. Multiply these, add the top. So that's 21 fifths times, multiply these, add the top. That's 10, and keep the same denominator. Okay, look and see if you can do any cross canceling because this is kind of a high number, 21 times 10. So I do know that on 5 and 10, I could divide both of these by 5. 5 are going to 5 one time, 5 are going to 10 two times. 6 and 21. What could I divide into both of those? What about 3? Yes. 3 are going to 21 7 times. 3 are going to 6 2 times. And if you don't understand cross canceling, just multiply top times top, bottom times bottom, divide and rock around the clock because you're going to have an improper fraction. 7 times 2 is 14. 1 times 2 is 2. 14 divided by 2 is 7. And if I make any mistakes, you'll have to let me know later because nobody's here to tell me right now. And I could very well make a mistake. I certainly could. Okay, last one. 5 divided by 2/3. Remember, we're going to keep it, switch it, flip it. And since we're starting with a whole number, my answer will be a whole number. So let me keep it, switch it, flip it. Instead of 2/3, I want 3/2. You slap a 1 right here. These are small numbers, so I can go on across. 5 times 3 is 15. 1 times 2 is 2. It's improper. So 2 will go into 15. It won't go into 1. It'll go into 15 7 times. 2 times 7 is 14. Subtract 1, stop and rock. 7 1/2. And we know that's in simplest form because these are neighbors. And there you go. And that concludes our review of multiplying and dividing fractions and mixed numbers. Let me know if you need any extra help. Have a great day.